Okay, well, why don't we go? I think we're missing a couple of folks, but I think we can get started to keep on schedule. Um, how's my sound? Is it okay, guys? Great, great. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Pleased to see all of you here. It's time for the 10th annual Career Forum. The second time we've done it virtually. And it's actually kind of fun virtually because you can be face to face with whoever you want to be with. But in any case, let me get started by I think our Dean Kyle Murray is on his way to Calgary for some meetings, so he's left us a taped welcome. So Cody, can you set that up for me?
Yep, I got you here. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Murray, the Dean at the Alberta School of Business, and I wish I could be with you tonight. Unfortunately, I'm traveling. I have been able to attend prior year's events, and they're wonderful. You have a fantastic panel tonight. I know the conversations in the breakout rooms are always very interesting. And this reflects the thriving real estate program we have at the University of Alberta School of Business. Thanks to David Dale Johnson and the work that his team has put in over many years now, we have gone from really having very little exposure to real estate in our BCom or MBA programs to where now they're thriving. And especially in the undergraduate program, we have a tremendous amount of real estate strength. So thank you to David, and thank you to all of the supporters in industry. And also thank you to the students and the Undergraduate Real Estate Club, which have put so much effort into events like these and into building our real estate program. We have some exciting news and some exciting developments coming up, including the launch of a new center that will focus on cities and communities and continue to move our real estate mission forward. I hope you'll have a wonderful evening, and back over to you, David.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, I'm going to take a moment just to introduce very briefly our speakers. We have, as Kyle alluded to, a great team with us tonight, and appreciate them taking time out of their busy schedules to join us. It's kind of a challenging experience for everyone, sort of putting their company and life story together in a 10-minute slot and sharing with you some meaningful stuff, but appreciate all of our guests being willing to do that. So I'm just going to go through everybody. Their bios are going to be or are available on the UARC website and also the real estate program website. So I'm not going to go through every one of our guests' histories. I'm going to introduce them, their company name and their title. Starting with Jody Wachko, who's with Cantero, President, Communities and Commercial. Amit Grover with Avis and Young, who's principal on the multifamily side. Eric Dimitruk, who's with Slate Asset Management, Managing Director. By the way, I might also say that I've asked Jody to talk a little bit about the land development side and the home building side. Cantero have a commercial component, but we're going to leave that for Matt Woolsey to talk about a little bit later. Amit, obviously, from Avison, talking about the real estate professional side, brokerage services, leasing and investment sales. And Eric talking about institutional investment in real estate with Slate Asset Management. Ryan Zacharuk is joining us from Altus. He's a general manager and senior director. He's with Altus Group, and Ryan's an appraiser, and I've asked him to talk about the appraisal side and also consulting. I think Ryan is here somewhere. He was being a dad, I think, with 3 kids, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to join us right on schedule, but such is life these days. Next, Carla Woodward with RBC. She's the Vice President, real estate markets and has joined us on this panel before. Great supporter of our program, and asked her to talk about real estate lending and real estate capital markets, and of course, what she does with RBC and RBC's role in the capital market side. Then Matt Woolsey with York Realty, the president, and I've asked Matt to talk about commercial investment, not just industrial, which is obviously York's specialty and has come into the fore in the last couple of years with our adventures with COVID-19 and Amazon, among other things. In any case, I've asked Matt to talk about the commercial investment side. And finally, Tom Shearer, who's the broker owner of Royal LePage and Relta. Thanks for joining us again, Tom. I see you've got a buddy there to help you out. And I've asked Tom to represent realtors, primarily the residential sales component of our industry. So I'm going to stop there and pass the ball to Jody. Again, Jody, welcome. I meant to get my Remembrance Day indicator, but I wasn't, somehow forgot today. I appreciate you being here with it.
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I scrambled about 10 minutes ago to go to my drawer in my bedroom and found one from last year. So I'm not that well prepared, but brutally honest. Well, thank you very much for asking me to participate. It's truly a privilege. I do hold a special place in my heart for the University of Alberta, having attended it in the 1990s, which is getting harder and harder to say, but it is a wonderful institution that continues to contribute to this city, this province, this country, and parts beyond this country. And I think we should all just be very, very grateful that we have that type of institution in our community and we're able to attend. I'm going to stumble through sharing my screen. I live in Teams mostly, so bear with me on this. And if you see more stuff than you should, it's because I'm multitasking today.
Actually, Jody, don't worry about it. I have your slides that were sent yesterday.
Do you? Okay, so if I just say next slide, you can advance them for me?
Yep.
That's perfect. That'll save me from looking like a Luddite.
All right. I got them right here.
Perfect. Perfect. What David had kind of given us for a bit of an outline is to talk a little bit about who we are. So I thought I'd kind of get right back to the basics and just give you an overview of who's going to talk at you for the next 7 to 10 minutes. So if we could go to the first slide. So it's my name, RPP MCIP. What does that mean? It's Registered Professional Planner and member of the Canadian Institute of Planners. So by profession, I'm a land use planner. I am an Alberta boy, born and raised. I was actually raised in a farm just outside of Edmonton. So my graduation year from high school, I went to the Alberta Treasury Branch, borrowed $100,000 and bought a quarter section. That's how I spent my first year out of high school. So land has always been in my blood, and having land and transforming it for productive purposes runs very deep in me. I've also always had an interest in urban stuff. Quick story, when I was in NAIT, I appealed my student loan, got another $1,500 and took a 1-week trip to New York City just because I wanted to see the place. So I've always been fascinated by urban stuff and the way it works. I attended NAIT first in urban planning, graduated in '91, and then ended up enrolling in the University of Alberta shortly after and graduated in '97. The whole reason why I have a degree from the University of Alberta is how bad the job market was in Edmonton and Alberta in the 1990s. It was not fun trying to find work, but out of those bad times came a really good thing, which was my career path to further my education and take a more professional route. So I'm very grateful. I also learned a lot about hustling and making myself a marketable person to whomever would pay me for my services. My first real job was with Strathcona County. I was there for 7 years. And actually they sponsored most of my degree. So I did a 4-year degree in 6 years, plus I got 4 years of full-time experience. So I crammed 8 years worth of stuff into 6 years and had fun doing it too. After Strathcona County, Stantec Consulting came calling, so I ended up working there for 6 or 7 years. I ended up managing their planning and landscape architecture group. And that's really where I got exposed to land development, because most of them were our clients. We were very fortunate at that time to have amazing clients. One of my clients was George Cannellini at the time. We were advancing the Windermere area. George was an office of 3 people. And as they were growing, they needed someone else. So I became number 4, and I've been there ever since, growing their land development group. And then in 2016-17, starting a commercial group. So how did my understanding of this business evolve, and what underpinned it? I would say that what gave me my best understanding is being involved in various processes and the various pillars of what real estate and development is all about. So it's the design part, the financing part, the entitlements part, the municipal regulatory part, the sales part, and being exposed to that through my career allowed me to put that all together at the end, and kind of, I guess, take my own unique path to becoming a real estate executive. If you could go to the next slide, please. So who is Cantiro? We're an Edmonton-based company, but we are currently expanding to markets east and west of Alberta over the last 25 years. And you may know us as the Beaverbrook Group of companies prior. We had a number of operating pillars that were building different real estate asset classes. And then we made a decision a couple of years ago to come under one name. There's efficiencies in doing that. We work closer together. We cross-pollinate different disciplines through different asset classes. And I think it just means that we provide a better product to our customers. We have 4 asset classes that we focus on: homes, and that's single family all the way up to townhomes; communities, land development or master plan communities, which is your typical suburban stuff. We have commercial, which does suburban and urban mixed use, including office. So West Block on 142 and Stony Plain Road is one of our projects. And then we have residential rental, which is focusing and building a portfolio on high-rise and mid-rise rental. So one of our recent projects is CX on 110th Street, just south of Jasper Avenue. It's a big white building with a really neat recreation center on the top floor, on the 22nd floor, and it's all lit up. So if you guys are looking for a place to rent, there's a giant number on the side of the building. Give me a call. Next slide, please. So, like, when you think of a developer or a home builder, what's the perception out there? You know, is it the greasy car salesman guy in the pink shirt? Is it, especially being in Alberta, is it kind of the cowboy? Or is it the former president of the United States, Donald Trump? And none of these are factual or true whatsoever. Everyone that I know that's involved in the real estate industry are very thoughtful, educated, deliberate, and precise individuals that spend a lot of time perfecting their craft. And that's the absolute truth of it. So although there might be some of these perceptions that are out there, they're very far from what the truth is. Next slide, please. So, you know, I certainly didn't take a typical path. I don't have a business background. I have an appreciation for that, but I'm not an accountant, or I don't have a BCom. But what I've seen is, in our industry, it does come from a variety of backgrounds. You know, leaders in our industry in this city and others do come from finance, but they also come from the design world. A lot of them come from the engineering world, the planning world, accounting world, or the construction world. They're all major components and pillars in what is involved in the production of real estate. But what I can say, that each of these individuals generally have some key characteristics that I've been able to observe. I think first and foremost, it's the ability to build and maintain relationships. At the end of the day, I think real estate is a relationship-based business. And, you know, even by virtue that we're having this career day, it's a testament to the program that you're taking the time to reach out and start to build those relationships while you're still, you know, in your formative years and gaining your education. The other thing I would say is attention to detail. Details matter. Margins continually get thinner. So, you know, that attention to detail will only serve you better. A keen understanding of who your customer is. And I think that's sometimes forgotten. And the successful companies continually remind themselves and their organizations of who their customer is. Patience. You can't will a market. You can be prepared to take advantage of it. You might be able to create a little bit of a buzz in a market, but you need to be patient and be very smart about it. I also think you have to be creative. If you become formulaic, you become a dinosaur pretty quick. So what we do is we always provide real estate for our users. And if we're not in tune with what our users are looking for or our customers, you fall behind. So that's where the creativity comes in. And of course, I firmly believe you need to have a tolerance for risk, because especially over the last 18 months, it can certainly be a scary business to be in at times. It can also be incredibly rewarding. So one of the questions that David wanted me to answer is, you know, what's your best day, what's your worst day, and what's a typical day? What's my best day? Is when something gets done and completed. So it's that high five, it's that reaching the pinnacle of, you know, when you get to the top of a hike in the mountain and you can take a breath for a day, an afternoon, or a weekend and say, you know, that was worth it. And usually it's years of hard work to hit that milestone, sell out a project, get something approved, finish building a building, service your last lot in the subdivision. Worst day, I would say any of the first 120 days of COVID. Absolutely the worst time ever. The uncertainty where you're thinking that the world financial system is collapsing and you will go down with it was the absolute worst 120 days ever. And no one day was better than the other. And a typical day, honestly, is a mix of those two. So if you can walk away from the office in the evening after your day is done and you have more good than bad, then that's a win for sure. Next slide, please. So the way we do things in housing and communities, and I wanted to focus a little bit on this, is that I firmly believe that everything begins with a creative process. Design drives everything and is successful when it's paired with a discipline of profitable and attractive product to the consumer. You need to know what they desire. You need to know who you're selling to. And then you need to marry that with some creativity and design. So, you know, this is just a couple of examples of land development, but housing would be sitting right next to us and we would be debating and retesting what would work best for the land side and for the housing. But at the end of the day, it's what's the best design for us to sell homes to the consumer, but also to meet cash flow requirements, absorption requirements, and do it in an efficient manner. I would say before we start, there's 20 to 30 options. And then once those are enacted through a project that may be a 10-year project, it's then revised another 20 or 30 times. These are real sketches. The one on the right on the yellow paper is actually my own hand sketch. That's my pedigree from planning and a consultant. And I still enjoy doing it to this day. It actually is a way I relax my mind. But change is the only constant, and marrying creativity with the discipline of cost and profit and knowing your customer, I think are really, really key in real estate. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about our industry and how we really do crave certainty, predictability to the greatest extent possible. You know, in general, there are four main things, no surprise, that we're concerned about: the market, time. Time is money. Time kills deals. Time misses opportunities. Costs, and a lot of this that we're fighting constantly are municipal fees and charges. And at least in Edmonton, weather. Weather can delay a project such that you can miss a market or an opportunity, and weather can add significant costs to a project as well. So managing the weather and dealing with the one of the few things that you can control adds an extra layer of complexity. But I believe it makes us one of the best in North America at building stuff, because we do have to achieve a year's worth of work in 6 or 8 months, which makes you incredibly efficient. Next slide, please. I think we can control a lot of stuff in our business, but we have to be disciplined about it. So land prices, which is our cost base, be it an infill lot or a quarter section for a new community, I think we have to continue to be disciplined on that and negotiate hard. Contractors, we have to negotiate hard with them as well to keep them honest. That's our biggest cost, and that's where you always have margin compression. I will continue to go back to municipal fees and charges, and we need to be vigilant in ensuring that we keep everybody competitive and keep our cost base down here, because I think that just benefits everyone. And approval times, going back to time is money. And although we build some amazing things, they're not rockets, ships. So we don't need 2 years or something to look at a project to be able to have it built. They're all conceived, reviewed, and signed off by a myriad of professionals in our industry before it even gets reviewed by a municipality. And it's one of our really big frustrations. Next slide, please. Clear rules and process. If I'm reporting back to Carla that I need to repay my loan to her in 3 years, I need to know what the process is. I need to know what I can rely on. So, if all of that is laid out and I can put a good cash flow together and say that this is when we'll repay the loan because I can rely on the timing, that really helps us. Again, we are partners with the municipality in most of what we do. If they know what they're doing, it makes our job a lot easier. And I think all our relationships with all of the individuals involved in a project is best when it's viewed as a partnership, as a win-win, as opposed to master servant or us and them. Next slide, please. So, in summary, this industry, it's a unique mix of finance, design, politics, and construction and sales. For a typical day, you can start speaking with a farm family that has lived in the Edmonton area for 100 years as you try to buy their land, sitting at their kitchen table. You might have a meeting with the mayor. Then you got to go to the bank to negotiate a commitment letter. Then you hit to your architect's office to look at the latest elevation drawings of a project. Then on your way home, you visit a construction site and talk to the guys that are running a backhoe. And then on your way home, a homeowner phones you and says that they're not happy because they have the wrong colored appliances in their home. That can all be a typical day. They're all incredibly different individuals and interactions, but they're also very energizing. And it can be a ton of fun. The last thing I'll leave you with, though, is in our industry, and this is my personal belief, there's a heavy responsibility in what we do. And it's a privilege to work and make decisions in an industry that creates places for people to live, work, and play. What we do is way more than a deal, a margin, a project, or a commission. It's an integral part of people's lives, and it leaves a legacy. Stuff that you build or I build or we build will be around for literally hundreds of years and will touch thousands and thousands of people. So, as students, I encourage you all to keep that in the back of your mind. It's just not another deal. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I think that'll make everybody better in this industry if they can remember those things. I hope I was on time, David.
Great job, Jody. The only guys you didn't mention all the way through, and I'm surprised, with the lawyers.
Yeah, well, they're there too.
Anyway, thank you so much. And I'll just encourage the students, if you have questions, we'll defer the questions till the end of the session, and look forward to hearing from them, from you on chat with a few questions. And Amit, I see you're there. Welcome, and great to see you, and take it away.
Great, thanks, David. If someone could just give me a thumbs up, how's my volume?
Perfect.
Great, thank you. I'm glad you gave me thumbs up because I'm not really sure what I would have done if my volume wasn't very good. I'm at my home office here, so it would have been problematic. Jody, that was great. Great slides and very thorough. Appreciate the chat. I look forward to connecting with you in the coming weeks. I don't unfortunately have a slideshow put together for you guys today. So if you're a visual learner, I apologize. You're just going to have to listen to what I'm saying today. But thank you, David, for having me. I recognize a lot of faces on the chat today. A lot of you have reached out to me, some colleagues, in various capacities. Hello to you all, and thanks for being a part of this. David, thanks for inviting me back. So my name's Amit, and I work for Avis & Young, and I am a multifamily specialist in the space. So what that means is that I focus on selling apartment buildings and essentially everything related to apartment buildings. So I'm the guy that Jody was referring to as someone who likes deals. I'm certainly in the deal space. But what I can tell you about Avis & Young is that there's a lot of different things going on at a brokerage, and there's lots of different asset classes that one can participate in. So anything from the leasing side, which, on the leasing side, I'm sure you guys are all aware of the industrial, office, retail spaces, and then there's the investment sales side. So I fall into a category of the investment sales side. And we're one of the only teams, I think, in Edmonton that focuses on multifamily real estate essentially from cradle to grave. So we deal with companies like Cantero as well, and we're helping figure out where to purchase land, where to sell, where to do land deals, land transactions for the purposes of building multifamily real estate. So that can be infill sites within city limits. Of course, everything's in city limits, or it could be something that we refer to as suburban sites. So more greenfield type land plays where a developer would come in and build a multifamily building. So we take the land transactions, and then we can also complete deals with existing buildings, inner city, and then newly developed assets on the greenfield spaces that companies like Cantero are building. So there's plenty of different. Well, I guess I should say we're one of the only teams that really does try to learn the entire life cycle of selling real estate. Avis & Young itself is one of the fastest growing real estate companies, I believe, globally, and they've made a very big push across the world really to grow their company. They're one of the very few, actually. They're not publicly traded, which is very interesting. They're actually owned by their principals, and I believe there's about 600 or some principals globally that collectively own Avis & Young. So everything is internal and everything is owned by the people that operate, essentially work for the company, which is kind of a cool format because I spent 15 years with a different brokerage that was publicly traded, and I noticed a lot of differences between the two companies. I did switch over the last about 2 years ago now. Was just given a really good opportunity to move. And essentially, who doesn't want to be part of a company that's growing globally, and also is intelligent about the way they grow. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of Avis & Young, and very exciting. It's a very competitive space. I mean, the way I got into real estate, I'm a university alumni, and I know it can be very confusing about your career path and where you want to take things. So what I did back when I was in school is I emphasized what my strengths were. And I wanted to work in an environment where I could utilize my strengths. And so my strengths, essentially, for the most part, I was a very resourceful student going to school. I didn't always have the best grades, but I was always very resourceful. And I wanted to get into an industry. We didn't know much about real estate back then. Through dumb luck, I sort of stumbled upon real estate and found out that there was these 4 major commercial brokerages that were selling real estate in Edmonton. I didn't know anything beyond residential real estate, to be completely honest with you. So I just went about, started making phone calls and calling people that I knew in the industry and calling essentially everybody I knew until I got to the path of these 4 companies. Back then it was Colliers, CBRE, Avis & Young was a player as well. and I think JLL has now emerged as a leader as well in the space. So I interviewed with all 4 companies and tried to get a gig. Didn't really know what really all of it entailed. So I basically figured out how to obtain a very specific database, actually, that enabled me to understand who owned real estate in town. Well, you can imagine that I attached the phone to my face for the next 12 months and really ended up making a career out of it. So one thing led to another, and now I have a team of 4 out of Avison Young, and we continue to do multifamily transactions all across Alberta and in Saskatchewan, which has been very exciting for us. So in terms of, a best day, worst day, essentially what we do is we're matchmaking. So we have a project, we have a buyer, we have a seller, we have somebody that wants to sell a project, we have a bank of buyers that could potentially want to buy that project. So we're matchmaking. A lot of the time we're matchmaking. In order to make and build credibility in the real estate space, we have to be basically parlayers of information. As we're information, essentially, we love information. So our job is to be ahead of the curve in terms of the information that's coming out. And we call everybody that we know and provide them with information so they can make better choices about where to build, what to build, when to build, when it can transact, who it could potentially transact to. Are institutional players buying right now? Is it more of a private space? There's all kinds of questions that developers, owners, and the like need answers to in order to make good decisions in the marketplace. And so we push information. As we continue to build our relationships, we build a bank of sellers and buyers, and we essentially matchmake, which is what we do. So we can work on any given project for weeks, months, and sometimes they go through, sometimes they don't. So a good day for me is, you could be working on a project for a year, 2 years. You go to the office and it turns out that, a deal that you've been working on for several years, the vendor will call you up and say, look, we're ready to put this on the market. That's a great day for me. And just the opposite can happen where, your competitors get the business or business falls through, or, another company or another firm is selected to essentially sell the real estate. So good days and bad days. The highs and lows of real estate, especially in the brokerage world, do exist. And there's certainly ways that we've figured out how to deal with good days and bad days. But overall, we have a lot of fun on a daily basis. I think the outlook for our business in the multifamily space, generally speaking, real estate in Edmonton, we're very excited about. Real estate's very expensive in Ontario and in BC, where a lot of institutional real estate is often purchased and sold. And we have a fair amount of supply. We have limited barriers to develop here in Edmonton. I know that it's difficult sometimes to get municipalities to agree and give development permits and things like that, but the truth is it's actually easier here than it is in several other jurisdictions. So, that being said, our market remains very affordable also. If anybody's looking to rent in Vancouver or in Toronto and all these other places, we have a very affordable market. It's also easy to start a business here. We don't have any rent controls. So there's several positives to being in Alberta and running a business in Alberta that I think I like for our future. We also are heavy on, I actually think from our stories and what we've been hearing in the market is that with the uptick in natural gas, the chatter is going to be about natural gas going forward, and we're going to enter into a little bit of a boom here in the Edmonton market for all the reasons I just mentioned. One of the biggest ones is affordability. So we're really excited about the Edmonton market and the Alberta market from a real estate perspective going forward. And I'd love to answer any questions that anybody has in the panel moving forward. David, that's really what I want to say and how I want to answer your questions here.
Thanks, Amit. Tell us about your best day.
My best day. Well, there's a building actually that we transacted on this year that a lot of you may know about. The building is called Newton Place, and it's actually just on the border of campus and across the street from the University Hospital. So the building there is 323 units, and it's got some retail on the bottom. There's a Subway, there's a burrito shop down there. There's a UPS store down there. So we have the mandate for the University of Alberta, which is pretty amazing given that I'm an alumni. So my team and I were told to take this asset out to market, even though COVID had just hit. We took the asset out in, I believe it was the summer of 2020. But we thought the asset was so fantastic that we could create our own little market despite what was going on. And that was a real sort of a Hail Mary. So we ended up taking this asset to market, and we ended up generating 8 bids, actually 8 offers as the pandemic had started. The building was only a third occupied, and the retail tenants hadn't paid in the last 3 months since the inception of COVID. So a great day for me was after we got the building under contract, and 8.5 months later, 8.5 months of due diligence, we found out that the deal was going to go firm and that we'd completed the sale of that building. So that for me and my team and the U of A was a great day.
Fantastic. That's a great story. Amit has part of Amit's team is Brandon Amata, who is former past co-chair of UARC. So we're glad we've been able to help you out a little bit along the way.
Got a fun story about Brandon, and yes, thank you for that. Brandon has been such an amazing and integral part of our team, and we're so proud of what he's accomplished in his 3 or 4 years with us. But one of the stories I have about him really quickly is that, we've got a data bank of, a couple thousand investors across Alberta that we've been building over the last 15 to 20 years. So Brandon approaches me about 4 months after we told him to come aboard on the team, and his mission was to make phone calls. So Brandon says to me, he says, "So what do you suppose I do when I've called everybody in our database?" And I looked at him. I said, "It's been 4 months. You've called 2,000 people in 4 months?" He says, "Yes." He says, "What do you think I should do?" I said, "Well, what do you think you should do?" He said, "Call them again." I said, "Great idea." That's exactly what he did.
Good for him. Well, thanks, Amit. I've even got a question for you, but I'm going to leave it till the end. So, Eric, good to see you here. Eric Mitruck with Slate Asset Management, and I believe Eric and I are alumni of the same university, both University of California, Berkeley alums. So, Eric, welcome. It's not always easy to find a fellow alum in Edmonton, but good to see you here.
I think there's one or two others of us here. It's funny that Newton Place, it was bought by Main Street Equities, which is the CEO is Bob Dillon, and that would be the #1 performing REIT stock in I guess it would be the TSX now over the last 20 years, and it has never paid a dividend, and it would be not even close to. It would be probably something like a factor of 10 times higher than any other real estate company. But I'd always be suspicious about Bob and what a good deal that he's actually going to get when he's buying a property, because he generally drives a pretty hard bargain, and I'm not surprised that it took 8 months of due diligence for him to actually acquire it. So good story on Newton Place. So I've recently joined Slate Asset Management. It's a Toronto-based real estate private equity firm. Today it has about 13 billion actually of assets under management. And that kind of spans the portfolio that I look after, which is on the public security side, about everything also on the debt side as well. And the bread and butter of the business is really real estate opportunity funds and some mandates with some of the larger Canadian institutions. My background, I joined from Slate from Alberta Investment Management Corp, or AIMCO. I was in 2003. I joined basically out of school. It was just basically my first job, and helped grow the real estate portfolio from $2 billion to $20 billion And when I joined, it was a pretty entrepreneurial small team. And so it basically meant that I had to do absolutely everything in real estate. That meant kind of structuring deals in Canada, structuring stuff in the UK, the US. So from a legal standpoint, entering into joint ventures, was constantly negotiating. I mean, underwriting properties, performing diligence on properties, again, finding partnerships, thinking strategically about assets. A lot of Aimco's assets were very large. I gotta think of the big mall positions. I mean, there's constant capital and positioning for assets that might be, what are you going to do to them so that they're performing better, not next year, but 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And again, I was very fortunate to kind of have that experience in Edmonton with a pretty small team and watch a portfolio grow. I think virtually every single person on this panel at some point I had met with, probably, talked real estate, argued with Ryan about appraisal values, played ultimate frisbee with Tom. I mean, I think, I think I've despite not really being invested heavily in the local community from a real estate standpoint, did get to know a lot of participants. And my, when I left Aimco, what I had been doing over the past 10 years, actually, if we just go to the last slide, and I can kind of talk about why institutions invest in real estate.
Yeah, Eric, sorry, would you like us to go through the slides, or
just go to the very last one, and maybe I'll skip around a bit. But
okay.
And so really real estate, from an institutional standpoint, a lot of them took holidays in the 90s after there was quite a number of kind of leverage blowups that really put a taint on the sector. And in about 1999, in the 1999 2000 era, you had some pretty large transactions, like OMERS took out Oxford Properties, and that's now entirely held by OMERS. Cadillac Fairview was taken over by Ontario Teachers. Ivanhoe Cambridge was taken over by the Case. And that kind of began the institutionalization of the real estate market in Canada. And again, when I started, we were probably at 5-6% real estate allocation, and that when I left Aimco, that became 15 to 25%. And really what started to happen then is it just became difficult. I mean, there's more and more capital, more institutions kind of chasing after the real estate asset class. And the challenge really wasn't so much having the capital, it was finding the right opportunities to do that. And so about a decade ago, I personally said, look, we should stop competing on a whole bunch of different bids on multifamily properties and whatever because of 10, 15 people that might show up for a bid. And let's think of other ways that we can actually access real estate. And one of the most logical places was actually the public markets, where you had the REIT market really, again, was becoming more institutionalized. It offered a kind of certain liquidity. If you think about some of the good multifamily REITs that are in the Canadian marketplace, it allowed me to deploy $50 to $100 million of capital relatively easy. And same thing happened with a couple of U.S. industrial situations in about 2014, 2015 time period, where we sort of knew that industrial was a place that we needed to invest in, but very, very difficult because a lot of other people also knew that. Difficult to do that on the private side of the business, and decided that the public way was actually a pretty good way to do it. And so you kind of have to think about to be a good investor in the real estate world, you really need to have a good philosophy and a process and really stick with it, right? And so, I mean, at Slate, if we kind of, let's see, go back to slide number, actually just one up, right? When we were talking about the basis, right? So Slate's philosophy around kind of real estate investing is thinking about basis first. So sorry, just go down about slide number 6, please. Really thinking about basis first and what is it that you're buying. So in my perspective, that means when I'm thinking about a public security stock, it's really looking through the underlying real estate and knowing everything you possibly can about that and whether or not kind of the odds are in your favor that it's going to work out. On the private side of the business, that means, like, are you buying is there some kind of discount that you're able to achieve, right? And they're not always apparent. I mean, where I think I've had the most luck in my career in finding at a good basis is buying larger, complicated portfolios that not necessarily everyone can understand, and thinking about the pieces. And I kind of use the term internally, buy wholesale and sell retail. And so what that might look like is buying 100 properties and selling off 30 of them to a better buyer that's willing to pay more, so that your basis on the remaining 70 properties is looking very, very attractive with a pretty high yield. From perspective, again, if I think about my how I apply that at Slate and how I've done that throughout my career, it's really looking at opportunity that other people just aren't thinking about. And so again, to be a very good investor, I mean, you kind of always hear, don't follow the herd, and all of those kind of mantras, but it's very difficult to actually do. And if I think about where I would have done that and pivoted my career in the real estate world, was starting to do more entity level type of investing, again, in the REIT market, just kind of thinking about real estate in a different way that maybe not the rest of the institutions were looking at that. And I think, I mean, if you spoke to people on the panel or otherwise, I think that the reputation at Aimco was a group that was kind of willing to do that. And it's absolutely the case at Slate, where it's a very entrepreneurial organization that kind of has a different perspective. And then there's the kind of point number 3 about being proactive. And I just think from a career standpoint, what that really means is being, in this business, you sort of have to be good at a lot of things. And what you really want to be good is at a couple of things that you do very, very, very well, better than other people. And then recognize the things that you're not necessarily very good at, and find out who that might be. So if that might mean going to hire on a consulting basis someone that can actually fill a void on a property. And so that where we'd often do that is find some more creative people that could be, if we were trying to improve a property, right? And that we didn't necessarily have marketing and branding and the creative side in-house, but we'd go and find people that could really give us a different perspective. That's what they did very well. And so that's about kind of being proactive and driving a result. I think, what else can I tell you? Good days good days, typical days. I mean, a day like today, I would have had kind of woken up before the market to see if there's anything crazy going on. We are in earnings season, so there is quite a bit to pay attention to. I mean, one thing that's important in my job is to kind of filter out what is sort of daily noise from what really matters. And so anyway, there is some market monitoring that will always go on. I think most days I am looking for a half a dozen good ideas that I can think about at least, and maybe even potentially act on. And because I think the more kind of curious you are in this business, the more likely that, and you're thinking about it and talking to people about different ideas, something is going to fall in your lap. And actually, today there was, I've been looking at a lot of industrial companies. There was a situation that did result today that led to an investment near the end of the day, actually after the market closed on a kind of bought deal offering. And so I'm just constantly on the phone talking to people in the asset management world. You're constantly negotiating with either third parties or internally as you're looking for internal sources of capital, whatever it might be. Negotiating with your own lawyers, you're negotiating with counterparties on transactions, and definitely negotiation and those kind of skills, soft skills, are very, very important in this industry, in the institutional asset management world. I think that's kind of all I wanted to say for now. If there's any questions, otherwise, I'm kind of looking forward to the breakout room as well.
Well, thanks, Eric. It's great to have someone talking about the public markets and also the soft skills that seem to be important pretty much everyone. But thanks for joining us, and I'm sure there'll be some questions coming up at the end. Ryan Zacharuk is here from Altus. He's going to be talking about the valuation appraisal part of the business, along with consulting. Ryan, the babysitting is over for the time being.
Yeah, I think so. We'll find out though, eh?
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us. Take it away.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, so just I guess a quick introduction to me. So Ryan Zacharuk, as David mentioned, I've been in the real estate industry now for about 18 years, and most of that actually has been spent with Altus, but I've held some other positions in the market. I've spent some time in brokerage. I've also spent some time in development over the years. And really, I guess, starting in brokerage, just to give you a sense as to where I came from. So starting in brokerage, I was on the office leasing side of the business, and was really looking at, kind of the analytical side of the real estate industry. And that's kind of where I saw this career in valuation that drew me in, and kind of where things started for me. So it was really getting exposure to real estate, getting exposure to the market, and really understanding what's out there. So in terms of, as you guys are looking at your careers and looking forward, I mean, I think my advice is probably just jump into the industry if it's something that you have interest in, and feel out what opportunities exist, and get as many experiences as possible, because I think that's really what's going to help you and drive you in your career. I do have a little bit of a slideshow presentation here that maybe I'll just, I'm not sure who's in control of it here, but if you don't mind just kind of pulling that up. But just kind of, I guess, as we lead into that, David had kind of introduced this or my conversation today as a conversation about a career in appraisal and valuation. I think I'm going to deviate from that a little bit in terms of what I talk about. And part of that is probably the fortunate thing that I've experienced in my career is working in an industry and for a company that's evolved over the years, and really the role of the role that we play in the industry has changed significantly. So what started as a more traditional role in appraisal and valuation has kind of morphed into a role more so in terms of technology and data and providing analytics to the market to help make the market better, to help our clients make better decisions, and really kind of evolve our position in the market. Well, I'm going without the slides here. So I guess a simple question is, kind of where does Altus Group fit in the industry? What do we do? So you hear about valuation, you hear about appraisal. That's one piece of our business. But really, we're a service-oriented technology business. So we integrate throughout the life cycle of the real estate processes and really anywhere that real estate exists. So we can integrate from, Jody talked earlier about the inception stage of planning projects and planning land development and vertical projects. We can integrate at that stage where we can assist in the planning and the development consulting side of the business. We can integrate anywhere through to building the project. We have project management teams with cost consulting teams that can assist in providing guidance and advice to developers as they build out their projects and help them maximize the value of their projects. That's really our end goal, is to maximize value for our clients. We can be involved as the project evolves through data analytics, helping our clients do better leasing, make better decisions in terms of the investment into their assets, make better allocation decisions in terms of where they want to invest their money, and what markets that they want to chase. And right to the point of looking at an asset that is maybe ending, kind of the tail end of its life, and maximizing the value of that asset through renewal or redevelopment as it continues to age. And then in terms of kind of who our clients are. Our clients really are anybody who holds or uses real estate in their course of business. So again, Eric kind of pointed out in his conversation that you know, he's worked alongside with most of the panelists on this forum, and as do we. So we've worked with the majority of panelists here, whether it be on the valuation side, on the consulting side, providing advice, whether it be our cost consultants or property tax consultants. We truly do get engaged with effectively anybody who holds real estate and or even occupies real estate in some cases. And really you know, what we do is we serve the largest institutional investors in the world, and help them make better real estate.
Ryan, you should be able to share your slides if you wanted to. Sorry.
Oh, am I doing that? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I was waiting for them to pop up. There we go. That'll make it
Technology at work.
well. Yeah, I think you think you've learned all this stuff, and then maybe not. All right. Is it showing now?
No, not for me.
We're trying to work behind the scenes here to get this to work. Just a few seconds here. Sorry, Ryan, I was not sent your slides before the event, and I just don't have them, so I was not aware that you had it.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that's okay. I'll try one time here. I'll click on them one more time.
Ryan, you want to just talk about retail real estate right now? Is that instead?
What's that?
Do you want to talk about retail real estate instead?
There we go. Are you guys seeing that now?
Yep. There you go.
Okay, there we
Good
go.
job.
There we go. Okay, so let me just get this organized here. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, here's some of our clients, and I'll apologize because I stole this from another presentation. So some of these clients, I probably could have localized this a little bit to give you some better perspective in terms of who some of our local clients are. But you'll see, you know, Aimco was a group that was mentioned, and these are the types of clients that we're working with on a daily basis. So in terms of, you know, kind of what we do within the industry is we really identify issues, and we try to find ways to solve them. So, you know, as it stands today, you know, we're looking at what types of issues is the market facing, and how do we help make those issues better through our professional services, and then layering in data and technology into that. So as you look at from a valuation perspective, how can we use the valuation process to improve our clients? The valuation process involves the collection of data. It involves the analysis of data. So we take that data, we provide a service, which is a valuation, but on top of that, we layer in analytics, so our clients can understand how is their asset performing, how is their portfolio performing, where is it performing, where is it underperforming, where is it overperforming, where are they over allocated in terms of asset weighting, where are they under allocated, and where can they find opportunity. So these are the types of things that we're leveraging our traditional professional service businesses with technology and data to assist in making our clients better, and again, maximizing value. Coming back to this, data really is the key to this. You know, when we look at the market and we want to understand, you know, what are the market's needs? The market's needs are understanding data. So in terms of data products, we have numerous different types of data products. We have data products that are sourced from within our day-to-day business. So we have an absorbent amount of lease data, of transactional data. We have internal data relative to our clients' real estate portfolios. And then we also have data that we sell to the market, that we research and sell to the market to help them within their processes and within their decision-making processes. And what do we do with this? So this is kind of the value chain that we look at, and we say, okay, so we can help you. We can help tell you what happened. We can tell you why it happened, and this is where our professionals come into play. Is okay? So this is what you have done. This is the value that you have achieved by doing this. But where we leverage technology is we try to help our clients understand what's going to happen next. So we can run different forms of analysis, and we can look to the markets, and we can understand where markets are headed and where trends are headed, and we can make some predictions in terms of what's happening in the future. From that, then we can look at it and we can say, okay, so how do we make that happen? How do we help you make better decisions to make the outcomes that you'd like to achieve happen in your real estate portfolios? And that's the leveraging of data and technology on top of professional services that brings that into the forefront. So, some of the things, I guess, that we're doing to achieve this kind of vision of moving the industry forward and leveraging professional services and data and technologies, we're expanding our business. So one of the exciting things that I'm actually currently working on right now is the creation of a new team headquartered here in Canada, actually in Alberta, between our Edmonton and Calgary offices. It's focused on international expansion. So we're taking a team and we're looking at building a team that's focused on valuation and valuation analytics to help grow our international business and our Canadian business, and leverage our tools to help clients improve and to grow their values and their portfolios. And when I look at exciting things that I've done in my career, this is probably the most exciting thing that I've been part of is growing this new business. And again, this is an expanding business and a real opportunity for people, graduates and co-op students and people in this room to come and take a part in a role in this industry and a formative role in this industry. And beyond that, we also have more traditional roles as well on the valuation side and some of our traditional businesses with valuation and tax management services and as well as data and research and whatnot, that we're also growing in and expanding in. And those are also exciting roles that we're leveraging with technology and data. So in terms of the questions that David had asked me regarding what's our outlook for your business and your industry, and I would suggest that my outlook for our business is very strong, and my industry is even stronger, because when I look at where I see our industry going, is I don't see us being considered in the traditional valuation industry. I would suggest that our industry that we're venturing into is more of the prop tech type industry, where we're looking at building technologies to assist in our professional valuation, our professional services platform, to help grow and expand our organization and our company. And again, I guess in terms of kind of best days and worst days, and coming up with a best day, I kind of thought about earlier in my career, what was a best day? It's something that can be related to, and I think one of the examples I came to was early in my career, being involved with some of the larger institutional portfolios that we help value and help provide guidance and advice to. Being able to the first time I was I kind of jumped on an airplane and flew to Montreal to meet with Ivanhoe Cambridge for our annual meetings, and to talk to them about their portfolio and provide them feedback on the performance of their portfolio, and to have a meaningful discussion about how they're positioning their portfolio for improvement. Those are the types of kind of interactions that are really positive and really make you understand where you fit in the industry and the advice that you provide to the industry. In terms of a worst day, the worst days are those days when we lose good people. That's probably the one challenge that we face, and part of that is somewhat flattering in that our clients actually want to hire our people. So they feel that we're giving people a good foundation and some good skills and abilities and a good understanding of real estate and what makes real estate and what makes value. So we should be flattered by that, but truly our people are our number one resource, in terms of and really, part of our culture. So when we lose good people, those days kind of sting a little bit. We continue to persevere and that's why that's also part of the reasons why we continue to invest in technology and data to effectively make our employees' lives easier and make them be better at their jobs so that we can help and retain more people.
Thanks, Ryan. That's a great story. Hanging out with Ivanhoe, Cambridge, and Montreal. That would be a pretty cool experience. And we've got a fair number of international students with us, so you may be getting some calls for your global expansion.
Sounds great.
We'll get to some questions later. I've got a couple coming in, but we'll pass the ball right now to Carla Woodward, who's been on this panel before. Welcome, Carla. Thanks so much for joining us. And I know you've got a few of our graduates working with you, and glad to see you keep recruiting. So keep it up.
Thank you very much, David. I'm very honored to be invited back to the panel and to have participated in your events for several years now. Or if I'm unavailable, somebody else from my team's often able to participate. So thank you. And it really is an honor to be here. Jody, I think you and I have a similar background because I too started my career working at a time when it was very hard to get a job. And I too went back to university. I am a U of A grad, MBA 1989. So if you guys are still posting your pictures in the hallways of the previous classes, you'll see me there. And the reason I went back to get an MBA is because honestly, the 80s, it was a brutally tough time to get a job. I had an undergrad degree, couldn't get a good job, decided I better go get an MBA. And when I was finished my MBA, I at the time I was wrapping up a project that I was doing for a group at the time called the Indian Association of Alberta, and I was setting up a nonprofit housing association for them to provide affordable housing for non-status Indians who lived in Edmonton. So that was my first experience actually with real estate. When I was teen and into my 20s, I had many different jobs, but while I was going to school, and that was my first foray into real estate, working with CMHC, doing feasibility studies to show that there was a need for housing. And the reason I was working with the Indian Association was they used to have a program through the federal government where they would put MBA students with First Nations or Indigenous organizations to work on special projects. So they would also hire law students, and I was fortunate enough to get that introduction. And so I was at a conference working for the Indian Association, and I met some people from RBC. And they said, "What are you up to here?" And I told them, and they said, "Well, sounds like you're going to be looking for a job in 1990 in January." And I said, "Yes, I will." And I had never considered banking. RBC, everybody's heard of all the big banks in Canada. At that time, we were, I think, about the 60th biggest bank in the world. Now we're probably in the top 20. But what the gentleman who recruited me, I always remember what he said. He said, the great thing about working for a bank is you can have multiple careers, but all with one company. And that really intrigued me. And I said, "Tell me more." And he said, banking is much more than what you see, the branches, in your neighborhood. There's many different things that we do in banking. And so just to, give you an idea, RBC has been around for over 150 years now. We have over 84,000 full and part-time employees. We serve 16 million clients. We operate in 35 countries, including Canada and the United States. It's a very recognizable brand. We continue to transform and grow. And we also really pride ourselves on caring. As an Indigenous woman, who started in RBC in 1990. I have never once, in the over 30 years I've been around as a banker, I've never once felt that in any way that I was somehow marginalized or held back or not given the same advantages as everybody else. And one of the things that I do today at RBC, in addition to leading our real estate markets team in Edmonton of lenders and financing specialists who support real estate clients, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of my other jobs at Royal Bank is I'm actually the executive sponsor for an employee resource group for Indigenous employees and their allies. And it really is, it's great. We do all kinds of wonderful things in the community. We support each other with mentorship and career development opportunities and all kinds of great things that really make people feel that they can really, be their true and full selves and show up at work, and recognizing that diversity and inclusion are core values of the bank. And it's been understood from day one since I've been at RBC that having a diverse group of people at the table making decisions eliminates and minimizes opportunities for groupthink. And the more diversity you have in your teams, actually the better decision process you'll be going through. So that's something that I guess as an Indigenous woman, I am particularly proud of, because it's something I know we live and breathe. So when I started with the bank in 1990, I started as a commercial account manager. I'll tell you a little bit about my story. David gave me 5 questions. So the first one was a bit about me and RBC. So I'll just say that, since I started, I've done many different things in the bank, and but it's always really been something to do with commercial lending and commercial banking. So at the time when I started, you looked after all different kinds of clients. But my career has taken me from Edmonton to Calgary. I worked in human resources. And again, one of my initiatives, I was the manager of diversity and inclusion at the time and employment equity. And even then, we were working on a project about closing the gender gap in the bank, because there were so many women who worked for the bank, more than 50%, but not as many in senior leadership as what we would like. So even in 1993, we were very focused on closing that gender gap. And, I'm proud to say today that we have in our most senior executive ranks at the bank, it is 46% women. So anyways, but I worked in the HR group. Then I worked in an energy lending group, lending to oil and gas companies. So that was my first industry specialized role. Came back to Edmonton, back into commercial banking, went to Toronto. I worked in risk management. And the first day I showed up to my job in risk management, what you do is you approve loans. So I was from Alberta. So, you've worked with lots of different kinds of manufacturing, energy, oil and gas services. I had some real estate clients, and I get to my new job in Toronto, and my manager said, "Carla, you are going to specialize in auto parts manufacturing." And I said, "Well, great, since I know so much about that." But that's the wonderful thing about RBC. It goes back to when, my person who recruited me, who said you can do many different things with one company. It's what I've loved about it, because every, especially early in my career, every 18 to 24 months, I went into a completely new job where I had to learn everything over again and from scratch. So I did that for a while, came back to Edmonton, managed a large portfolio of diversified clients. But the first time I actually got serious real estate exposure, I actually did leave RBC for a while in 2009 to 2015. I went to another bank, and I was leading their real estate team there for one of their centers. So that was my first real foray into the specialization of real estate. And then in 2015, I came back to RBC in my current role. So in terms of about RBC. It's funny, when David said you can present slides, I actually have a 2-hour slide deck, because on September 22nd, and I have 10 minutes, so I'm not going to show that. But on September 22nd, RBC actually did essentially a recruiting event for MBA students. I was a part of that panel, and there's all kinds of information. So I will say, if anybody wants a bit more detailed information, I certainly have it. But I thought I'd focus more about the specific role that I have in real estate and Royal Bank's real estate operations. So One of the things that I guess was the next question David asked me to discuss was, basically Royal Bank within the real estate industry, how we fit in with the competitors, et cetera. So I want to say that within Royal Bank's commercial banking division, real estate represents over a third of our total portfolio that's, of authorized and outstanding loans, and that's a huge dollar amount. So real estate is a key growth driver for us. And in fact, as David mentioned, we're hiring all the time. I have hired people, from your group and, your class of real estate specialized MBA students. We've been hiring through the COVID pandemic, and part of the reason that the bank needs to hire more and more people into commercial banking all the time is because actually our real estate portfolio grows so much. We need the rest of the commercial banking portfolio to catch up. So we're doing a lot of recruiting, and within real estate, Edmonton is a strategic market. We have 5 strategic markets that we've identified across Canada. So Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, and Toronto are the 5 core strategic markets for us. So we serve clients that are involved in all aspects of the real estate industry: land development, project developers, so say condo developers, apartment developers, home builders, owners of income producing real estate of all the different types of asset classes. So on my team, I have 5 commercial account managers of real estate. Their titles are Director Real Estate Markets. And we have 3 senior financing specialists who focus on more the actual credit analysis part. Then we have about 4 other support staff, and I lead that team. And my role is really around building talent, inspiring the team, helping them basically unlock their own potential in terms of managing their individual portfolios of clients. Each of the account managers on my team would have anywhere between 20 and 60 clients that they look after, or client groups in their portfolios. And we provide loans. Within commercial banking, we can have clients who are borrowing as much as $250 million with us, or as little as $1 million. So we really can look after the whole spectrum. Many of the clients that we deal with multiple banks. We're not always what you would call their house bank. So in addition to providing credit, which is really the core thing, they come to us, they want to borrow money. But we also provide extensive cash management services, foreign exchange trade, anything else they might be involved in. And because the bank is so big and broad, we have wealth management divisions, et cetera. So there isn't much we can't do for our clients. But really, our real role is to really bring the best of the bank and the best advice that we can provide to our real estate clients and really get on their path and help them grow and prosper. Because, our stage in the cycle is, usually by the time that we're brought in, the project is either about to start and all the work that leads up to that has been done, and we're assessing it to see what we can do on the lending side, or an asset that's completed and producing income, and we're doing an assessment there. But a lot of, and so that sounds simple, but there really is a lot of making sure that what we're doing is matching up with what a client needs, but also fits within the bank's risk appetite. So that's a lot of simplification, but that's really the core of what we do. And in terms of how it fits in sort of with respect to other players in the real estate industry, of course, all the other big banks, the regional banks, credit unions compete with us. But of course, there's also non-bank financials that we compete with. So it could, insurance companies that are doing lending on income producing real estate are often competing with us. Some of the mortgage brokers have their own mortgage investment corporations. So sometimes a broker who's shopping a deal around to the different lenders may even, be considering, funding that loan themselves. So the competitors are broad. And then of course there's, groups that are more like the private investment firms, and some of them are here today, or, institutional investors, et cetera. So sometimes we compete with them, but sometimes we partner with them in a syndicated loan. And we have done that. We have had some projects that have been financed in Edmonton that have been syndicated when, that have included groups like Oterra or Montez, et cetera. So there's a wide, array of ways that we can kind of fit into the market, and there's many different competitors. But basically, banks are the low risk investors. Our rates are very, very much lower than what an equity investor requires. So, we typically have an extremely detailed and very, very, I guess, intense sort of oversight and diligence that we do to see if something fits within kind of our 9 dots and fits within our appetite. And it has to be deemed not that risky because our spreads, like I say, we're kind of that low part of the capital stack. So the next thing that David asked me to talk about was career opportunities and paths. So I've kind of touched on that a bit already with respect to my path. Has led me through 3 different geographies in Canada. But I have worked with people who've, worked in London, England, and the Caribbean, all over the place. I have friends who've worked in Hong Kong. So really, it's really the sky's the limit. When somebody joins RBC in a specific part of the bank, it can lead you just to many different ways. So honestly, I would recommend, anybody who's interested, in looking into some of that, just go to our website and you'd see there's just a huge diversity of opportunities. But what I would say is that, with respect to RBC and career opportunities and paths, it's really shifted. When I started with the organization in 1990, at that time, big companies tended to be very paternalistic, and really took charge of the employee's career and guided them and how to plan for them. It's very different now. It is all employee driven now. It really is. It's your career. It's your opportunity to really look at what you want to do and the different opportunities. So real estate, obviously I've been in real estate now since, like I mentioned, 2009. I love it. I find it interesting and fascinating because every deal is unique. Every client is unique. The bank's appetite changes over time. Lending policies can move around. So to try to find a win-win, to find, something that works for a client, that works for the bank. And as has been mentioned by some of the other panelists, this can take a very long time. So when I'm going to go to, I guess, the next question that David asked me was, what is a best day and a worst day? And a best day really is when you see things come to fruition that you've been working on for a very long time. So I actually thought of 3 examples of a best day for me. So I'd say recently one of my best days was when we got an approval on a loan, and the sign is up now on 104th Street, just south of Jasper Avenue. We were successful in arranging financing for a new high-rise rental building, the Falcon. And previously, that's Langham Development. So Reza Mastashari has been featured on your panel before, I know, David. And we've done past projects for Langham Developments. And, getting a project like that approved during the COVID times, it is a lot of work, and it's also a lot of risk for the borrower, to really assess. And that's where our role as an advisor is just so critically important, because the risk mitigation that we look at, ultimately is beneficial for our client as well. So that type of thing, it's a win, and we probably worked on that for 18 months. And so to see the sign up now, every time I drive by it, I'm really excited. Another thing that I'm personally, I guess, really proud of is one of my first real estate clients I ever had was in 1993. I financed their second project. This is the Rohit Group of companies. So a lot of you would have heard of Radhi Gupta, Rohit Gupta. Last year, Radhi and his wife Krishna were inducted into the Junior Achievement Business Hall of Fame. So I financed the Rohit Group's second project ever. And, now they're being, they're awarded this wonderful recognition. We still have a banking relationship. And so for me, to see the client grow and prosper over that almost 30 year period it's just it's really exhilarating to have been a part of that. And then the third type of thing that really excites me is somebody who joined the bank 15 years ago that I've been mentoring for years, right from when she very first started. And I encouraged her to move into our risk management team, specializing in real estate about 4 years ago. She was on my team. I engineered an opportunity for her to take a job in our risk management department. And just it was announced last week that she won our highest honor, which is we call it our Royal Performance Convention, which you go on a cruise with all the bank executives and all the very, very top performers of the bank. So I'm always really excited where somebody that's either reporting to me or who I've mentored in the past wins an award like that. And a worse day is when you lose something, right? When you lose a deal to a competitor, when you lose a top employee. You know, nobody likes losing, but of course, you always have to focus on, you know, okay, what do I have to learn from this, and then move on. And that really brings me to, I think, some of the last things. David asked me to talk a little bit about the outlook for, you know, business and the industry in Edmonton. And I can tell you that I haven't got my sales plan targets for the year yet, but I know they're going to be 10 to 15% higher than last year's. Royal Bank always gives us a very, you know, aggressive sales plan for the year. My team has about a portfolio of about it's about $1.2 billion of loans. Mostly that's loans. There's some deposits in there. So, you know, growing that every year to grow that portfolio, you know, you probably have to actually grow it by about 25% a year because you get runoff, loans pay down, you don't win every deal, et cetera. So, you know, but we've been doing that. Last year, surprisingly, you know, 2021, I thought would be a flat year. It was actually the best year we've had in the last 5 years for new deals and deal flow. So the outlook, I think I've seen more deals in the last 3 months than I had the previous 9 months crossing my desk that we're having an opportunity to bid on and look at. We know that Alberta is going to lead GDP growth this year. You know, we know there's probably going to be some inflation. Interest rates are going to be going up. There's an urgency to get things done before some of those things start to kick in. People want to get their deals done at the lowest interest rate possible. So that's, you know, creating some opportunities. But I think the big thing, and it's been mentioned by some of the other panelists, is, you know, change really is the only constant. Disruption and unexpected things, random variables, you know, that get thrown at us, like things like COVID or the, you know, the crash that we had in 2008-9, those things that people didn't see coming, you know, we don't know if that's coming. So one of the things that we really focus on, and that I focus on when I'm looking at recruiting or when I'm working with my own team of real estate lenders, we really think about not so much, you know, what are the specifics of your resume? Like this young person I mentioned that I, you know, mentored 15 years ago who's on the cruise. She has a master's degree in music and an MBA. You know, I have an English degree and an MBA. I have a person on my team, you know, engineering degree, accountants, different things. But what people, it's not so much, you know, the letters behind your name as the capabilities. And to me, the key ones have always been, and these are things we talk about a lot internally: curiosity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creative thinking, and problem solving. I think that young people today, you know, entering the job market, if you can really focus on those capabilities and really, you know, like we would all say, yes, I'm curious and yes, I'm a critical thinker, but going even deeper and really working on building out those capabilities. I think any of us that do that are going to stay relevant, whether it's, you know, a 30-year career like mine or somebody who's just getting started, like the students that are here today. So, and I know there was a joke earlier about a lawyer or lawyers, you know, and I know one of the lawyers that I deal with a lot, who's one of the very top real estate lawyers in Edmonton. You know, I asked him one time, because he deals with some of the most, you know, successful developers. And I said, you know, what do you think it really is that separates the top performers from everybody else? And he said, really, you know, it's about being able to simplify complex things and then be able to communicate that clearly. And, you know, that's always really resonated with me. And I think that as long as, you know, we can focus on those capabilities and communication, problem solving, curiosity, it's going to serve you all well. So I hope I didn't go over, David. Like I say, I tried to distill a 2-hour presentation into 10 minutes and cover off all your questions. Let me know if I missed anything, but I'm really looking forward to the breakout session. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Carla. Great to see you again. And gosh, I learned something new about you every time. So all good stuff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Why don't we, to try to keep up with our time, let's move on to Matt. I think he's here. Matt Woolsey with York Realty, who's been a busy guy over the last couple of years. Great to have you back on the panel, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. If you guys want to get up and stretch, go ahead. I just had a stretch too. I will not be offended if anybody needs to get up and walk around. I'll keep this quick. I apologize. I'm not as prepared as I should be, but I'll do my best, David, to give you a rundown on who we are and what the segment of the industry I represent. So I'm with York. We were really lucky last year. We represented the case. We were the judges, and we got to use our site for the university case competition, the Battle of Alberta with Manitoba. I don't know if was anybody on this panel involved in that last year. I'm going to assume it's everybody with the cameras off. It was super cool. It was really fun for us to be able to take our site and give it to a bunch of students, because I have to say there was actually some really good ideas that came out of it. And I think that's really what real estate is for me anyway, and what it represents is just, it's this possibility for imagination that I think a lot of careers can't give you in a way that real estate can. It's something tangible. It's something that can go from an idea in your mind when you're looking at either a dilapidated asset, or you're looking at a piece of land, or you're driving around daydreaming about something. It's really this idea that you can connect the dots in such a way that you can imagine something and then turn it into a tangible thing you can touch and feel. And better still, if you do it right, you can go to Carla and she'll lend you some money on it, or you can go to Eric and hopefully he pays you way too much, Eric, right?
I thought it was more like partnership, Matt. I thought you were going to say partnership, but anyway.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, of course, partnership, Eric. But no, I'm just having some fun. But so anyway, that's a little bit about real estate that I find exciting. But so a bit about our company, York. If you don't know, so we're a local industrial landlord. We do basically only industrial. We started by my mom and dad about 35 years ago in Canmore, Alberta. My dad was a real estate broker on the multifamily investment side, just like Amit. And in the 80s, in the mid 80s, when things weren't so good, a real formative time in Alberta for a lot of the big sort of, I think, real estate careers that went forward. He was a broker liquidating assets for a company called, I think it's called Northwest Trust. And at the end of the liquidation, Northwest Trust came to him and his partner, a guy named Larry Mason out of Calgary, and said, thanks so much for your service. The good news, we have enough money. The bad news, it's only for one fee, not for both. So because Larry brought the relationship, they paid Larry Mason. And because my dad didn't have the relationship, they said, well, there's this building in Canmore. It's on leased land from CP. It's 50% vacant. It's got a mortgage on it at 11%. As my dad tells it, right, it's uphill both ways in a snowstorm. But really, that's how he got in the real estate business, was sort of by accident. And so I grew up around real estate. I was really lucky that way. As a kid, we would go to Canmore every weekend. And every weekend we would eat pizza because pizza construction didn't pay the rent. I think one of the first things I learned from my dad was how to change a lock with a toothpick, because it was cheaper that way than getting an actual locksmith. So from my career, I've been really fortunate that real estate's been in my blood from the get-go. I used to get to tour every Saturday. My dad and I would drive around and look at buildings. And anyway, just a random thing, like who drives around looking at industrial buildings, but it was a really bonding thing for us. So of course, I think I always had it in my head that I wanted to get into industrial real estate because it's what my dad did. Years went by. I did end up going to university. I did a civil engineering degree at University of Waterloo. I got into finance after that. I went back and did my MBA at U of T. And I was going to work for a fellow named Mitch Goldhar, who's a really fascinating guy. If you ever get a chance to look him up, he owns Smart Centers and Callaway REIT, and has more money than God. But a really creative guy who has a really neat story behind him. One thing led to another. I ended up in the car business by accident because my dad had an investment in some car dealerships. I ended up running a car dealership, and then the fellow that ran York Realty unfortunately passed away from a stroke. So I got seconded into York, and that was about 14 years ago, and I've never left. In that time, I think we were about 1.1 million square feet when we started, and we're now about 7.5 million square feet. We're really lucky in that we've got properties across Western Canada. So I guess that's a bit about our company and the background. Within the sector and within the real estate industry, I think industrial real estate is in such a fascinating phase right now. If anybody wants to get really nerdy and into it, I mean, it's the flavor of the month, right? Everybody wants to be in an industrial all of a sudden. And for years, nobody wanted to be in industrial. Now everybody wants to be in industrial. And we're seeing this compression of cap rates, right? So this increase in value that's tough, frankly, to understand. Maybe not. I mean, I'm sure everybody in this panel would have different views on that. But capital is piling into industrial real estate in a way that certainly I've never seen. And certainly being from Alberta, it's a really different position to be in, because for my career, I started in 2007 or something, right at the end of the boom. I have never seen a really successful economy in my career. So to see this change now personally makes me a little uncomfortable, right? I'm used to having to scrap for every deal and to try really hard to put the pieces together. And it's really strange to just build something and people are interested, right? It's a new feeling. And then once you have it full, to have somebody actually want to pay you more than you thought it was worth, right? Like they're not bad problems, but as a developer and as an owner, they make you concerned and they make you think a little deeply, because what does it all mean, right? Where are cap rates going? Can they compress further? Inflation is, we can all see it, we sense it. If you build anything, if you try and buy something on Amazon, it doesn't show up and it's delayed. Inflation and supply chain issues are affecting everything. What does that mean for interest rates? Will cap rates rise with interest rates? There's just so much to it right now. It's a really fascinating time in the industrial space. And it's led to some really unusual things, especially in coastal cities or in Canada, particularly Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto. If you go to those cities in the industrial spectrum right now, there is literally no vacancy. If you can picture cities the size of Toronto, there are no vacancy. People are throwing up spec buildings of 600,000-700,000 square feet and leasing them to massive companies at $13-14 a square foot. Land prices have gone from $500,000 an acre to $2.5 million an acre. So in Vancouver, I had a site under contract for a client who wanted us to buy it at $5.5 million per acre. These are numbers that are really difficult to understand, and it's tough to understand where it goes. But that's, I guess, sorry, I sound so negative. I just sound scared. but industrial is really exciting right now because of all these different dynamics, right? And of course, on top of this all, you've got the pressure of e-commerce, right? All the retail moving from bricks and mortar into warehousing. But then you've got in some of these also these big markets, the approval timelines to bring land online, to get development permits, building permits. In any other market but Alberta, it takes 2 years to get the permits required to put up a box, right? And that also causes land constraints. Environmentalists, right? Everybody is so concerned about the environment now, which in theory is wonderful, but it's kind of tough when you've got a stream running through an industrial area to care about the turtles in the stream. Like, is that the right focus at that particular time? But all of it's causing constraints in terms of the supply that we can bring to the market in Canada. And it's causing, again, an escalation of real estate values, an escalation of rent, and it feeds into this whole cycle of everybody wanting industrial. So for me, it's been really interesting to watch. I sit here in Alberta and I watch everything else happening in the rest of the country. I'm really happy we're here. It's still competitive. David asked us to mention, we have great competitors at York, Hopewell, One Properties, GWL, Bentall Kennedy or Bentall Green Oak, whatever they're called now, Remington. Like, there's a fantastic slate of developers in the industrial space, and each of us have an angle, right? We're all trying to do the same thing, which is make money building buildings, but everybody's got a different angle. A lot of the commercial developers just charge a fee to go buy, right? So they'll go tie up some land, they've got a land position, they go to a bunch of pension funds, whoever they can, to try and secure money for that land. They have a vision and a thesis, they pitch it, just like you guys did at the University Battle of Alberta last year. If the pension fund likes it, they get in, and the developer gets a fee going by, and those fees can be significant, right? They're 7-figure fees, maybe more depending on the size of the development. Then there's developers like us who are private capital. We do not have the capital that our competitors have, so we're really small fish in a big pond, which means we have to be really careful. And it's caused us, I think, to kind of get into how we fit into the spectrum at York, to be really client focused. The only way I can compete with everybody else that has more money and more resources is to get super close to our clients. So we have a whole team of people that just focus on getting to know all of our various tenants, so that when they want to grow, hopefully we can grow with them. So sorry, I said I'd be short. I'm just talking and talking, so I'll try and keep it a little bit more succinct. In terms of our company, what that's caused us to do is be really a values-based company. So I'll just share this really quick. Property Solutions Simplified, that's our tagline. We always talk about being a duck, right? Like, it's swimming really hard underwater, but on the top, it looks really smooth. The values are really fundamental to who we are. They're absolutely fundamental. So challenge the status quo, do what you say, respond quickly, do the right thing for our tenants. This is fundamental to what we do, but it has fueled our growth. We're now building projects all the way from Victoria, BC out to Ontario for the first time. We're building projects in Saskatchewan. We're building 3 buildings in Calgary. We're building quite a few buildings in Edmonton. For the most part, they're leased. And we're really blessed to just have a really great group of staff, and a really great that really believe in our values, and then a really great group of clients that are willing to take us places, even though we have to learn as we go. So that's lots of words, more than I intended, to talk about the industry and our company. Career opportunities and paths in the industrial space. There's so many, and it's so exciting. So industrial used to be big boxes, or it used to be oil and gas shops. It's now, like, I would say the vast majority of what we build now, the building is only a small portion of the investment that goes into the asset, if that makes sense. whether it's, we did a big building for HelloFresh. They've put many millions into the freezer cooler production line in the back. Whether it's Amazon with their 4-finger 2-way distribution system inside, that's all robotics. We're working with some food production companies. It's just changed so much. It's not just simply big boxes anymore. You have to understand how the buildings are used by clients, because there's so much direct to consumer that's moving into our space. So in terms of opportunities, they're hugely varied in the industrial space. I could, and every sector that's represented here, whether it's brokerage, leasing, investment, disposition, acquisition. And then within that, there's various subsets of people that focus just on e-commerce. They focus just on B and C class assets. So there's a whole variety of opportunities in industrial, and because it's such a hot sector right now, it is sucking up money and talent, I think. Okay, personal note, my best day, your worst day, a typical day. Okay, so I think my best day was probably 2 years into it when I did my first big lease deal. It was 118,000 square feet on a building on 50th Street that we own. And it was with a company called Walls Industries. I had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning to make this conference call with this guy out of Texas that was a hard-nosed CFO and with this really thick New Jersey accent. And I just prepared really well for it. And I remember just had this conference call I was so nervous for. I hadn't really slept. And the pitch went really well. At the end of it, he said he'd take the space. And I just remember dancing around in the dark in my office at 7 in the morning, thinking, I just made it big time. 2 years later, they couldn't pay the rent, but that's also part of the learning curve. The worst day, I'd say it happened recently. I was working on again, really, really exciting, but working on a big project in Victoria. It was going to be one of Canada's first multi-story distribution centers. We pitched to a large client to do a 28-foot clear warehouse with a 28-foot clear warehouse with parking on the roof and a parkade next to it for sort of some last mile functions. And I couldn't believe it. We pitched it. The client loved it. We gave them the cost. They said yes. We found the land. Things were moving. It was on a land lease at the airport, and the airport said, "Don't worry, we are the approving authority. We'll get this done for you. We believe in the project." The CEO of the airport phoned me and said, "I've got your back. No matter what happens, I've got your back. By the way, there's this little thing with the town where we have to reference the plans of what we want to do to the town for 40 days. They don't have a say in anything, by the way. We're the approving authority." So we put it to them. I got an email out of the blue saying, would I please appear at a virtual town council meeting, and trying to, anyway, just do the right thing and be transparent. I went and, showed up ready to answer questions along with the CEO of the airport. And we just got raked over the coals. Like, I've never had that kind of verbal abusing or bashing ever, let alone in a public space, right? And I learned a ton that day. But I also really, it was deeply personal because I'd worked so hard to get to this point, and then to have somebody just crush it who doesn't really have a vested interest. If you can picture it as a developer, you put your heart and soul into these things and your cash. And to have sorry, David, I'll shut up here soon. To have somebody just crush it because their opinion is they hate e-commerce is just so trivial and depressing. Anyway, the good news is we got through it, and I'll show you really quick, and then I'll be quiet. These are the footings going in right now in Vancouver Island. This is just to deal with the earthquake loads out there. They're 5 feet deep. There's one of 5 footings this size. It's just pure concrete underneath. And I'll just share with you really quick. We did end up going with a multi-story industrial building. We are now delayed. It will not be one of the first of its kind in Canada. It will be the second of its kind in Canada, because we were delayed by the town, but we won't hold it against them. And this is the project in Victoria that's under construction right now. Next time you land, if you ever land at the airport, you'll see it there, maybe without the balloons, but it's coming out of the ground right now, and it's we're really proud of it and really excited by what it's going to be. So anyway, thanks for your time. Industrial real estate is a lot of fun, and there's lots of possibilities. So that's all I got.
That's Matt, thanks so much. So your bad day turned into a good day eventually.
It's not done yet. I didn't tell you about the material price increases from when we started till now.
And how is the dad business? I think you had a new little one around the time of the NAIOP deal.
We did, yeah. No, thanks for asking. Yeah, we've got 4. He's already almost 10 months, if you can believe that. So yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Dave.
Thanks so much. Okay, Tom, last but not least. How often have you heard that? But anyway.
You know what? I'm a middle child, so usually I'm in the middle. So
thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. I'll see if I can share my screen here and then get things going. All right. This hopefully will keep me on time. So I'm Tom Shearer. I'm the broker owner for Royal LePage Noralta Real Estate, and we're a residential real estate resale brokerage. So what we do is we help people buy and sell personal property, like your home or an apartment condo or smaller investment type properties. I also right now am doing I'm the chair of the Realtors Association of Edmonton. And that job is just being on the board of directors and helping with running the MLS system that we use here in Edmonton. So all the great listings that you see on realtor.ca are fueled through the MLS system that we work on at the Realtors Association of Edmonton. Matt, you talked about being in real estate and it being a family business. I've been doing this since I was born. My dad was a real estate agent before me. He started in 1970. There's a picture of me holding the rake with him. And my dad attempted to be a real estate investor in the 80s, and they were building some buildings, but unfortunately, hard times didn't make that happen. And so we focused mainly on resale real estate. And then my younger brother, Patrick, he's a real estate agent too. So this is a great business. And the reason I put this slide on here is just to say that this real estate industry and the work that we do and all the great things that you can do around real estate provides a great lifestyle and living for your family. And I'm firsthand experience of that. We've had a great life. I'll talk a little bit about getting into real estate. I know that a lot of the panelists have amazing careers and have done a lot of really cool things. And residential real estate is a little bit closer to home, a little bit more local, and a little bit smaller scale, but still a really neat industry. And working in the residential real estate industry, you really are an independent salesperson. And so a lot of, whereas in a lot of other of our sectors, you count on different people helping you get to the point. In residential real estate, you're really focused on your client and seeing them through the buying and selling process. So, and you get to realize the reward for that. You create your own little business when you're working in residential real estate. So you are making your client list a small little book of business that you will work with you over and over and over again. People, I think, in their lifetime will probably buy or sell real estate 3 or 4 times. And so if you do a good job the first time, usually they work with you a number of times over. My favorite part when you talk about best day, David, and thinking of what's a really great day in real estate, that's when you get to work with people that you really enjoy being around. And it's usually in the spring and it's nice and warm out. You get to drive around town with your windows open in your car and you get to look at great houses all around the city, and then you find a place that people really fall in love with. And in residential real estate, it's more of a transaction of the heart than the Excel spreadsheet. So people will either walk in and it's like, I think I know this. This is great. I love this place. Or they'll stand at the front door and wait for you to get back to the front door and leave the house really quick. In terms of another great thing about working in real estate, it's the type of job where it's very flexible. So a lot of careers you go into, you got to be at a certain place at a certain time. In real estate, you got to be at a bunch of places at a bunch of different times, and it's all spread out all over the place. So you have a lot of latitude to fit things in. And then the last thing I like to say about residential real estate is there is no ceiling on your income. The day that you activate your license, you have the same earning potential as your peers in the real estate industry. I'll walk you through a few steps. I don't know if you even care about this or not, but if you ever did want to become licensed as a real estate agent, you do have to fulfill your eligibility requirements. Fortunately for all of you, you have your university degrees, so you will blow everyone in the real estate industry out of the water. A lot of people in my industry, they just get in with their high school diploma, but I think I was on a panel with the council today, and we were talking about, I think that post-secondary education is something coming in our industry, and that'll be great. It'll really increase the level of professionalism. Once you decide to get in to become a real estate agent, you have to complete the fundamentals of real estate. It's another course that you can take. It's easier than going through a semester at university. Then you choose an area of practice. You could do residential, which is what I do. You could do commercial real estate, which is most of the panelists do here. And then there's also rural, and you could do property management as well. You have to pass a criminal record check to get your license to practice in real estate. And then finally, you would select a brokerage. The broker activates your license, and then you're good to go in terms of practicing. To go into residential real estate, you do need your membership at the Realtors Association of Edmonton. That also gives you membership at the Alberta Real Estate Association and the Canadian Real Estate Association. You have to pay a whole bunch of money to be members of these associations. So every year you renew your dues, and with both Rika and Ray. David, you asked about what's going on in the market, what's coming, and I was just at a meeting with a couple of my colleagues from across the country, and we were talking about what's going to happen next, and I said, well, I think they're going to open up the borders, and we'll get lots of migration, and people will buy houses, and it'll be even better. And one of my friends, he correctly said, no, it's already crazy right now in terms of the demand, and it's all of you young people. You're growing up and buying real estate, and I think it's the millennial generation that's that echo after the baby boom, and a lot of you are getting into the real estate market, and a lot of people believe in residential real estate as being a very good investment, and a lot of people are targeting getting into that. And I think there's just a really strong wave of young people coming into the realm. I heard someone say that we're 1.8 million houses short in Canada, and just think about that for a second. You're wondering why things in Ontario and Vancouver are so out of hand, and why prices are escalating so much. It's just there's just a crushing amount of people that want to own homes, and that's why pricing has gone up the way it has. And I wonder, I'm hearing people talk about vacancy, and there absolutely being nothing that you can get your hands on in some of the larger markets. And I wonder how long it takes for people to recognize and realize that it just makes sense to do business here in Alberta, where they'll move stuff into our region, and because it's so affordable, number one, to live here, and then number two, you can actually get your hands on office space or other things. And then the other thing I'll say, looking forward, is all of your parents are going to need to sell their homes eventually, and then buy another one. And usually what they'll do is they'll buy a bigger house, but with less bedrooms, so you can't move back in. And so there'll be lots of opportunity for you to sell houses for them in the future. I'm almost done here. The thing that you said, what's one of the worst days is I heard you guys say this over and over and over again with the panelists. It's when people leave you, whether it's a client or whether it's a person that works for me in the office space, and when your value proposition isn't the right one for them anymore, and sometimes it's a little bit personal, sometimes it's just financial, and it really hurts. So that I would say that's the worst day. Okay, there you go. I went through it as fast as I could. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Oh, good job, Tom. Thank you so much for being the wrap up guy. I think what we're going to do, we have a bunch of great questions, but we're running a little overtime. So I think what the best thing would be to do, we've collected all of the questions, and I think separately we'll circulate them among the panelists and get answers back to everyone in the crowd. Cody, Nick, does that sound like a reasonable plan?
Yeah, I've got all the questions documented, David, so we can definitely follow up with the panelists, get those answered, and then follow up with all the attendees.
Yeah, so I think that'll also give the panelists a little private time to actually think about the question and share a good answer with us, because there are some great questions, and I'm sorry that we can't get to them, but I think we should say our thank yous and then move on to the breakout sessions, of which there are two. Everybody should have information on where to go with the breakout sessions. I think everybody has received links accordingly. So I'm going to thank our speakers who 201 did a fantastic job. Really appreciate your time. And by the way, Sabrina's just sent another question. So if anyone does have other questions, please share them with me directly or with Nicholas or with Nick or Cody, and we'll get them out to our guest speakers. So anyway, thanks again on behalf of the School of Business, on behalf of our dean, who's probably still in his car on his way to Calgary, on behalf of all of the students here, and certainly the real estate program, and the soon-to-be Center for Cities and Communities, which is going to be an exciting new adventure for the business school and for the university. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Everybody have a stretch, and we're going to keep this room open. So if anybody gets confused about where they're supposed to be, feel free to come in here and ask one of our experts what to do. But thank you very much, and keep safe, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Great.
Thanks, David.
Cody, I'm gonna leave first, but how do I give back the hosting qualities to you?
Oh,
Just when I leave, you still have them.
go to the participants,
Yeah.
and then I believe you click more
Okay.
on my name.
Yeah.
And then you say make me a host.
Should be good. Got it?
Yeah, I got
Awesome. Okay.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I
was
I
that?
didn't get an email with the group. I tried to sign up through the Eventbrite, but I guess my like submission didn't go through, so I didn't end up getting a group number. Do you mind putting me in any group?
Sure, yeah, I could do that right now.
Or thanks so much.
I'll just search to see if you were. Yeah, it doesn't look like you're on the registered people. So Yeah, no, I can toss you in a room right now. I guess the advantage to that for you is, do you have a specific industry professional you wanted to be in a room with, or?
Tom Shearer would be sick.
Oh, sure, sure. I can hook you up.
Thanks.
No problem. Let me just find him here.
There'd be two, Theodore, so you'll get two breakouts. So who would be
Okay.
your second choice?
I'm not sure. Maybe Matt, please.
Matt Woolsey.
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. I'll actually be in that room at that time as well for the second one. So
Okay, sweet. Thanks for setting all this up, by the way.
yeah, no worries. It's been one hectic day, but at least
Yeah.
it went off pretty smoothly. So
Yeah.
are you what year are you in?
Fourth.
Fourth.
Just
Nice.
finished up. Yeah.
Are you taking the real estate certificate at all?
Yeah. This is my last class, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I just started, so I got a long way ahead of me still, but
Oh, it's fun. Are you? Which ones are you in right now?
I'm in 454.
Okay.
So, and then I'll be taking the rest next year probably. Where is the room with Tom Shearer? There it is. Okay. Just copy. Okay, so here is the one with Tom Shearer. Maybe copy that and paste it somewhere else so you don't lose it when you leave this room. But oh, and the passcode for it. I'll send that as well. There you go.
Okay.
Because I could just send him that form.
Oh, it's I have all the links here in front of me. I can just,
Okay.
you know.
I'll just click it in the chat. Hopefully, it just pulls up or something.
Sure, yeah. And then for the second one, for the second session, I'll send that one here as well.
Do they have like room numbers, or is it just the link, or is that the room number?
It's just the link and then the passcode.
Okay.
Nine, 8. Okay.
Okay.
Or maybe take a screenshot of everything so you don't lose it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if this goes away after you leave the room. It probably does. So.
Okay, let me. I shouldn't have used my iPad, but
Oh.
it is what it is.
Here, I can email it to you also.
No, it's all good. I pulled up the notes. Hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully it'll work.
I'll do that just in case.
I'm doing it right now as
Yeah, you could always come back to this main room in between too.
Okay.
If you lose anything, so.
you should have it now. There's a PDF with all the links.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, this is my bad. I thought I signed up like once the event opened. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, David. Once it opened, but I don't know what happened.
No worries.
That's all good.
You're good to go now.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy.
So Cody, I mean, I thought the speakers were just great, and I think we did the right thing to just move on to the breakouts.
I agree. Yeah. Just to keep with the time of the event that we had planned in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a good idea.
You know, the breakouts, they provide a little more personal interaction, and we can always get the questions answered separately. So it'll be cool.
I agree. Yeah. It would help if they were in the breakout room with the person they asked the question to, but
Yeah.
if they weren't, it's no big deal, because I think also having maybe a typed or recorded like video answer to the question might give a little more of an in-depth answer than they might have been able to give off the top of their head. So
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be good
You,
too.
you could probably stop recording now. I don't think we need to record,
Oh, true. Yeah. I do that.
but thanks for doing that. We should maybe edit